any prior literature on it. We did not know how to handle such situations. So the main concerns that we had were that how would we be able to ensure productivity of at least 90% of our employees? Secondly, most of the issues that were previously being solved from the office, where we would have to solve them while the employees are working from home. We did not have any knowledge how to do so. So initially, for the first few weeks, it was more of a hit and trial method, but eventually we just, over the period of time, we learned how to go through about it. It's the same way, even when you talk about recruitment, we've conducted interviews mostly on site, especially the technical interviews that we conducted. So we had to draft a whole framework, how to ensure that we have an equally effective interview being conducted while the interviewer and the interview are both present at home. However, I'd say the transition, what seemed to be very difficult in the beginning, was not as difficult once we started going through it.
All right. That makes absolute sense. I really want to come back to how you guys kind of managed to increase the productivity while your employees were working from home, because I've seen a lot of very creative ways that companies are coming up with to kind of keep everyone engaged and keep everyone kind of feel that you're still like working, the environment is like you're still working from the office, and the companies are coming with very, very creative ways to kind of engage them. So before we come to that point, which is on my list of what we're going to talk about in this session, I really want to get kind of a sense of what you guys think the current job market in terms of just engineering and is like right now, because we're seeing a lot of companies laying off, but at the same time we're seeing a lot of companies hiring as well. So it's kind of, in terms of just engineering, it's sometimes you see that it's really bad, but you're also seeing like the side where you see a lot of companies actually hiring and actively hiring new talent as well. So maybe Sheraz, you can just kind of weigh in on what you think the current job market is like for engineers.
Sure.
In
Yep.
this,
Job market is actually directly linked with the business, how actually business is going on. You rightly say that the business is unpredictable. This is actually the current situation is. Actually, the businesses depend on which industry you are operating in. If you are serving to the hoteling, traveling industry, or tourism, so definitely they got ahead. So IT companies who are actually serving to these kind of industry, they definitely go into the downsizing, laying off, or their growth has been stagnant or stopped or going down. While on the other side, the companies like healthcare, industries like healthcare, e-commerce, they are actually getting a very boom. So it depends. It's still unpredictable where it is going. CEOs, owners of the company don't have the predictability for like 3 or 6 months. Their revenue stream is actually mostly going month to month basis. So that's actually the business market is. So business is directly going to jobs, and the similar kind of thing is going with the jobs. Yes, there are few jobs available, depend on which industry you are in, and yes, there are laying off and the jobs are decreasing, which industry that particular IT is serving to. So that's actually the job market is going into currently.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think that highly depends on what the industry you're in. Haris, do you want to weigh in on the same question?
I completely agree with Sheraz. So while we're seeing a downfall on some tech industries, like tech companies who are dealing with some specific industries, we have also seen a boom in the tech companies who are dealing, especially in the industries related to fintech, to logistics, to healthcare sector. So the industrial dynamics are changing internally, and it's hard to say where it will go in the next 3 to 6 months at the moment.
All right, yeah, that makes sense. So, speaking of, yeah, Sheraz, do you want to add?
Yep. Yes. So for the job market, my prediction or my current I'm saying is in one line: if your company is not laying off, you are actually in growth. So that's what it is. Because business is unpredictable, you cannot see from where the business came in, which industry is going up, going down. Trends are changing a lot. So if you are not laying off, if you are going as you were before the pandemic, then you are actually in the growth. So that's actually the one-liner for the current market.
That makes sense. All right. So, coming to my next question, I've seen how I've kind of, obviously, I'm not in the HR, kind of this field, but I've seen the interview process happening because, obviously, I've interviewed for a lot of companies, and usually it's very straightforward when you're not working from home, and everyone's not working from home. You get an interview, their face of interviews, their tests that you go to their offices and you kind of give, and the interview process is almost always like face to face and very physical. But now, since everyone's working from home, how has that entire process evolved, and how does that affected the process? Because when you're actually meeting a candidate, you interviewing them face to face, it's very easy to gauge what kind of employee he would be, and a lot of things that you can't really gauge while you're interviewing them online. Do you think that is the case? And if that is, how what kind of ways or what kind of things in the process that you guys might be adopting or changing to make it more kind of efficient? So maybe you guys might have come up with the different set of questions that you guys are going to be asking the interviewee to make sure that he or she is fit for the company. So I kind of would just want to gauge how you guys have kind of evolved with this pandemic, and how your interviewing or hiring process has evolved during this entire thing.
Specifically, when you go for the online hiring or interview process, the main impact, the effective is employer branding. When an employee came into the organization, when they enter into your door, so they actually 50% make their mind, yes, this is the right company I have to be in. So now you are not actually giving any impression. So the part of employer branding is actually missing. So this is actually the negative part that we can say if we go for the online hiring. Yes, because this is actually something new. We are on to it is we are still evolving. So our focus is more towards the technical as well as personality test evaluation. When you go for the online hiring, specifically, a lot of test tools are actually helpful for you when you go for the online hiring. So we have implemented few tools. I have seen a lot of companies that actually being moved towards the online testing. Online, it's not just based on MCQs or theoretical, but it's actually a programming testing. So they actually practically they give the programming test, and based on these tests they shortlist a candidate and then conduct a face-to-face meeting. So that's actually how this online interview process has evolved.
Right. So do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah. So I believe that ever since the pandemic started and ever since we've moved on to a work from home scenario, we've given a chance to upgrade our recruiting techniques. So over the past 3 months, we've focused primarily on remote interviews where we conduct live coding sessions of engineers. So that's something through which we can not only test their technical abilities, but because it's a live coding session and we're also having a chat with them directly, we also understand their thought process and their approach towards solving different problems that are given to them. Apart from that, we've also introduced some new stages to our interview process, which includes not only a reference check from their previous referees, which is a much detailed reference check so that we have a better idea of the pros and cons of that candidate that we are planning to hire, but also understand whether or not based on the previous manager's experiences, the candidate would be culturally fit for the company or not. We have also held some video call sessions of the candidates with the hiring managers to compensate for the previously face-to-face cultural fit interviews that we used to have, or the personality tests that we had. So that way, we believe that we've upgraded our system in such a way that even when the pandemic ends, we would not have to force a candidate to come to the office to appear for the interviews. We can still accommodate them and let them appear for the interviews from their remote locations in case it's difficult for them to come to the office. But I completely agree with Sheraz. We'd be missing out on a major chunk of recruitment, or which is employer branding this way.
Secondly, the positive point for this online hiring is time saving. because as per my experience, I'll be able to reach, I'll be able to conduct more interviews compared to when we call people to the office, because there is no traveling. People are more easy. They are more willing to come for the interview. They are agree to come for the online interview. So this is one plus point where actually online hiring is actually overall supporting.
On the downside, not everybody has a fast internet connection, so we do face a lot of issues because of that.
A lot of time, yes, that's.
So, do you guys think that this process of hiring online, since I think it's a little bit more resourceful in terms of, people are not reluctant to come all the way to the office, but keeping that in mind, also a lot of people who are not interested will just show up for an online interview, because there's not a lot of effort that goes into just going online and giving an interview, rather than just going all the way to an office and just interviewing. That shows a person's interest that they really want to interview for this job. So there's a lot of pros and cons when it comes to online interviewing. So do you guys think this is like kind of like a setup that will kind of stay even after the pandemic? Do you guys think that companies should or would be interested in keeping the process of online interviewing kind of keep going on even after they have the option to interview people in person? Or is the in-person interview something that is always going to be more preferred over online interviewing? So Haris, you can start.
Haris, please.
All right.
Yes.
So I believe definitely an in-person interview has a better impact on both the candidate and the interviewer. However, especially keeping in view the circumstances of the tech industry, what we've noticed is that the candidates prefer those companies which are ready to accommodate them, to provide them this opportunity to work from home even in normal days. So in case we are able to provide them this facility, that if they do not have a transport, or if they're unable to reach to our office to attend the interviews, then they should be taking this on a positive note, that the company has provided them this opportunity to appear for an interview from their remote location. But definitely that would mean that the less serious candidates would also appear for these interviews. And because it's only been 3 months since we've been practicing this, I think it will take a few more months before we can come up with the framework to ensure that this does not happen.
Absolutely. Sheraz, do you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, perfectly. Because this pandemic actually forcefully learn us to work from home, work remotely. So one thing that has realized to many CEOs, for example, I have an office space. There are 200 people. I can accommodate 200 people. So just adding, not adding by extra operational cost, I can actually increase my strength to the 300 to make people work from home. So this is actually the business opportunity that came into in front of the CEOs practically. So that can be used for later on after the pandemic as well. So initially, CEOs were not comfortable. Management was not comfortable to go for the work from home, because they do have the they do have the issue of depend on the approachability communication. But now things has changed. People has been trained. People has been forcefully pushed to that particular situation, and this opportunity has come to life in front of many of the management and CEOs.
All right, yeah, that makes sense. So I wanna talk about something very sensitive during these times. Obviously, there are companies who are laying off, and I more than just the layoffs, I want to talk about how you guys think companies can ethically kind of approach the layoffs. There've been a lot of companies, huge companies, who've laid off people before the pandemic. We saw a very huge layoff uh, with Uber, who globally laid off about I think 1,600 and more people. And there's a certain set of ethical rules that they're supposed to follow, like notices or compensations and other things. Although a lot of companies do that, but I've also seen a trend with a lot of companies who also go out of their way to help out their employees find new jobs. And one of those ways is kind of creating public resource sheets where you just compile a huge set of data for the job seekers and the companies who are hiring, so that it's accessible to everyone, and then everyone can add their resumes or data there, and companies can hire their add their positions and everything. So this is probably one of the things that I think Kareem did it as well. So these are some things that are not really in the rule book per se, but this is just in it's just creates a sense of goodwill, and also just shows how a company is really caring of their employees, and how they're doing even after the pandemic. So I just want to talk about what you guys think, what other kind of ways there are that companies, especially the IT industry and the companies in the IT industry, can kind of help out their employees with. Obviously, a resource sheet is one of the things, but if you guys have any other tips or things that your company might have been doing or might do if such a scenario arises. So let's talk about that. Sheraz, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah. See, layoff is layoff. It can be ethical, but it cannot be positive, because it always has a negative impact on the employees who have. So what the best least thing we can expect from the company is what they have committed to the people in their contract they have to fulfill. Whatever the salary, whatever the benefits, whatever the things they have committed to do on the layoff, they have to do. Before going to the layoff, I believe the companies, and there are companies who are doing the same thing, and rather than they going for the layoff, they actually go predict the market for the future as well, how long this recession or this pandemic is going on. Like for the 6 months, after 6 months, if I have to hire the people again, so there is another cost of hiring and training the people. So rather than just laying off the people, I should retain the people, and just not giving the benefits. I can just give, the company can actually give the salary, and then they can reduce the benefit for the first step. That's they can do. Yes, in the later stage, if the company thought, yeah, the money is not actually coming in, the revenue is not generating, so you can just actually go for the salary cut as well in the second option. Or in the third step, if still the revenue is not generating, you can go for the part-time job offer to the employees. And fourth option can be the layoff to the organization if the business is not running. So if the company should go step by step rather than just going for, so रात को business बंद हुआ है, सुबह आप उठे हैं और जी thank you very much to the employees and there is nothing. Just go by the books, by the contract you have done, and then go step by step for these you can say strategies that go for the layoff.
All right, Harris, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. So firstly, layoffs are never easy for the company. So because laying off those employees who've actually served and have helped to grow the business is never an easy discussion. So in case we reach that stage, I believe the company should either provide the employees with an ample time to search for other employment. In case there's an unprecedented circumstance like we're going through these days, then the company should at least provide them with several pays of a few for the next few months, so that the employees can at least survive and can manage their finances accordingly. Because definitely this is something that's unexpected, and not everybody has planned their financial expenditure accordingly. In case layoffs have been done, as you mentioned, that you can make different sheets, you can circulate them over the internet or with your connection, so that all those companies who are hiring have a data of all the laid off employees whom they can choose from. You can also provide your employees with free of cost technical or non-technical trainings or certifications for that time period, so that they can brush up their skill set and they can not stay redundant, or their growth is not stagnated at any point while they're searching for employment. Because most of the companies do have a corporate account, so these certifications, providing these free of cost certifications for their laid off employees, is not something that's difficult for them to do. So these are very little things, apart from the fact that the recruiters can help these laid off employees find different opportunities that are available in the market. So this is the least we can do to help all those who've been affected.
Absolutely. So do you guys think that I'm not sure if because you guys are the recruiters and you guys are in the field, is there like a network of recruiters or talent hunters who is currently, is there like a resource sheet or something of that sort that has been circulating between all this network of yours? Because I'm assuming that you guys also kind of help each other out in the network while you guys are hiring or laying off and stuff like that. Is it something that recruiters and talent hunters are actively doing right now during the pandemic? Because obviously a lot of companies are laying off and a lot of people are looking for jobs. And is there something that's going on to just kind of amp up that process for the job hunters and the companies who are hiring?
Yes, definitely, definitely. There is a forum with the name of HR Knowledge Cafe. This forum has almost 200 HR professionals, specifically from IT industry and from the Lahore. So what we have done so far is we are actually being connected with the company and with the candidate as well who are actually laying off. The companies who are looking for the jobs, who are looking for the candidates, actually we are providing the candidates to these companies. And the companies who are actually laying off, we are connect with them as well. So we actually take all the resource sheet from them and providing these candidates to the companies who are looking for. Also, we do have few sheets that actually getting the details from the people, from the employees that are being laid off, and same data is being shared with the companies who are looking for. And companies are rigorously actually sharing the opportunities. A lot of opportunities is coming in. We are sharing, and there are many success stories. If we get a time, so we can share the success stories as well through this platform. We actually being place a lot of people, not specifically for the IT, but in other domain as well for the software houses, like in content writing, even in HR, finance, networks. That's what. So this is actually a professional platform that is working currently for IT sector in Lahore.
Amazing, amazing. Haris, do you have anything to add to that?
I completely agree with Sheraz that ever since the pandemic started, the recruiters have expedited this process to ensure that we can bridge the gap between the recruiters and the the job searchers as much as possible for us.
Amazing, amazing. So, guys, we just have 5 minutes left. I just want to quickly go through the questions that we got, and maybe you guys can answer that. So, the first question is by Fatma Tanveer. She's asking, now since recruitment has been more of a 360-degree process, which doesn't stop till finalizing candidate, when it comes to taking any candidate on board, like signing appointment letter and everything, how do you take that acknowledgement online or get them signed from the candidates?
Can you please repeat that?
Yeah, so basically what Fatma is asking that, at the end of your process when you're hiring the candidate, you obviously have to get the contract signed and everything. Since everything's online, how do you guys go about doing that?
Definitely, there are two methods we currently using, and a lot of companies using. There are online signature availability to some. There are online software that are free of cost. You can actually go by that, and they provide the facility to get the signature on the documents. Other than that, you can actually through career service, you can actually exchange the documents, because that's legally when there is a legal requirement, so you have to go by the books. So by the career service, you can go for that. So these are the two methods we're currently actively using.
Right, right. So Haris, this is a question regarding technical recruitment. So do you think technical recruitment has been made simpler or more convenient during COVID times, given the organization can assess candidate via Zoom and other platforms? I think we discussed this in the very beginning when we discussed the online interviewing and everything. But if you want to go ahead and answer that, maybe.
Definitely, I reiterate what I said previously, that ever since this pandemic started, so we've moved on towards virtual platforms for this purpose. So while some things have been made easier, like we've got different tools to assess candidates through, but then there are other things that have become a little difficult for us, like personality evaluation. Because when you're meeting a candidate virtually, you cannot assess their body language, their gestures, their tone, and their facial expressions as much as you can when you're sitting with them face to face. So the personality or the non-technical side has become a little difficult to gauge, while the technical skills can be gauged as efficiently and effectively as we were previously.
Right, right. So I think this with this we come to the end of our session, and kind of the gist of entire session was that even though online interviewing and kind of just hiring people during the pandemic has been made kind of convenient because of apps like Zoom, there's still like a gap that it cannot fill, which kind of occurs, which is not there when you are doing an in-person interview. So thank you so much, Sheraz and Haris, for doing this session with us. We'll definitely want you guys on the session again. We can maybe address more questions. And for everyone who's watching, RubyConf has created a resource sheet for engineering in Pakistan. We are kind of curating a list of people who are looking for jobs and a list of companies who want to hire. And you can just go ahead, we'll just pin it in the comment section, and you guys can add your CVs and your job vacancies over there through a Google form. So thank you, both of you again for coming, and thank you everyone for joining in and just commenting your questions, and we'll see you guys at the next session. All right, bye guys.
Thank you very much.